Hope everyone had a good week. As we continue now with Rupa Goswami's Upadeshamrita, the Nectar of Instruction. Although we're in May, the lessons that were posted were lessons 8 and 9 from April. So this is still the heading. And this is continued Upadeshamrita by Srila Rupa Goswami. Reading this book again after quite a few years helped me appreciate that concept of Om Agyana Timirandasya. I was born in the darkness of ignorance. These instructions are so sweet and so practical. The beginning ones, just like in yoga. In yoga, there are different steps that one takes in order to access the deeper recesses of one's consciousness. There's yama and niyama, things to do and things which should not be done. And this prepares the mind. Then finding a suitable place and sitting down, asana, then breathing, pranayam, and as one concentrates on their breathing, then they come to a more internal state, and the external world fades, pratyahara. Then as one starts to concentrate and meditate on particular topic, point, whatever it might be, features of Krishna and our process, dharana, deeper meditation, jhana, and then finally samadhi. So in the same way, Rupa Goswami's book is taking us from things to do, things not to do, then qualities and characteristics of devotees, and then we'll get into qualities and characteristics of the Lord's features and pastimes, and finally the most exalted, all within 11 verses. So it's quite compact, and let us dive in. Samapriya, can you choose a reader for us to begin with text 3? Unmute.
Hare Krishna, everyone. Nice to see you today. It's really, I want to double that because it's really wonderful to read the Nectar of Instruction again after so long. And it shows how transcendental knowledge is really eternal. We started reading this book in 1976, and the same knowledge holds true today. So wonderful. Okay. So, Manvantara, why don't you start reading for us today?
Upadeshamrita. What is this? Text 3?
Yes.
Yeah.
There are 6 principles favorable to the execution of pure devotional service. Being enthusiastic. 1. Being enthusiastic. 2. Endeavoring with confidence. 3. Being patient. 4. Acting according to regulative principles, such as Shravanam, Kirtanam, Vishnu, Smartanam, hearing, chanting, and remembering Krishna. 5. Abandoning the association of non-devotees. And 6. Following in the footsteps of the previous acharyas. These 6 principles undoubtedly assure the complete success of pure devotional service. Purport. Bhakti is a sort of cultivation. As soon as we say cultivation, we must refer to activity. Cultivation of spirituality does not mean sitting down idly for meditation, as some pseudo-yogis teach. Such idle meditation may be good for those who have no information of devotional service, and for this reason, it is sometimes recommended as a way to check distracting materialistic activities. Meditation means stopping all nonsensical activities, at least for the time being. Devotional service, however, not only puts an end to all nonsensical mundane activities, but also engages one in meaningful devotional activities. Swarvanam, or hearing, is the first step in acquiring transcendental knowledge. One should not give oral reception to unauthorized persons, but should approach the proper person as recommended in Bhagavad Gita, chapter 4, text 34. Just try to learn the truth by approaching a spiritual master. Inquire from him submissively and render service unto him. The self-realized soul can impart knowledge unto you because he has seen the truth.
Okay, very good. Patty, should we go on to the next page too? Or would you like to
I'm
discuss
thinking,
this?
I tried to pick out, these purports were rather extensive, but I tried to pick out the core concepts of each, and each page basically has something on it. So I think if we go through it that way,
Okay,
it would be better.
okay. So, what can you tell us about what you've read so far?
Well, the steps are pretty direct, and especially is very poignant given all the stuff that we've read to date, from the various books. So it's a little more relatable, but it's just a lot packed into each of these 6 items.
Right.
But it is also very relatable. I mean, there's something from everything, that I've experienced in my Krishna consciousness.
Okay, well, let's
But,
start. So what about Shravanam?
Hearing, yeah. So, and it even coincides with what we read recently in terms of, I mean, just last week's lesson, in terms of following instructions, just hearing and adhering to instructions
Right,
versus
good.
having to experience the nonsense and falling down just to learn that way. You know what I mean?
Right.
Just be humble enough to hear and develop faith just to follow the instructions. I mean, that
Good.
is so
Perfect.
important in devotional life.
Good for you. All right, Acharya wanted to say something. Acharya?
Yeah, Hare Krishna, thank you. I wanted to bring up what Prabhupada says about cultivation, that
Oh,
that's a really important point. And he says the same thing in the introduction of Nectar of Devotion when he's talking about Anyabhilashita Shunyam, and he takes the word Anushilanam, and he says this means, he uses the same word, it's a cultivation. He even says consciousness alone won't help you. It has to be along with this actual practical activity and cultivation. So I think that's a really important point he's bringing up here. And again, mirroring very closely the words he used in Nectar of Devotion. I don't know how far apart in time he wrote these two, but I think it's significant how he's using that, making that same point and using even those same words.
good. Very good. Anyone else? Patty, you want to say something?
Yeah, the point of cultivation actually also means that something should happen. It's not that we go on a plateau. Plateau doesn't work. Plateau is not going to satisfy us. When you cultivate something, just the nature of cultivating means something's growing, something's changing, something's moving along and progressive. It's not that that's one of the things that's so frustrating about materialistic life. You can do the same thing over and over and over again, and it gets hackneyed. So you have to keep trying different things to fulfill. But like you just said, Sama, this book came out in, I think, 1975, 76, almost 50 years ago. And it's still pertinent. It's still something that when you read it, it's pleasing, it's helpful, it's informative. It's not like, oh, I already read that story. I already know it. I don't need to go through all the details again. No, there's so much information that's packed within them. It's the difference between spiritual life and spiritual wisdom and spiritual experience as opposed to chewing the chewed of the material
Right.
experience. Tisha?
Oh, Tisha.
Well, I don't want to change the subject here, but I was just raising my hand because, like Manvantara was saying, each one of these points is you could write volumes about. But my question is really, does anybody have any tips for endeavoring with confidence and being patient? Because like these things are hard to do. They're not some things come more naturally to people, I guess, but I'm very
Good.
endeavoring with confidence is very difficult for me.
It's interesting that you have said that because I picked that one point out to think about. Before I say anything, does anyone else have something to say about endeavoring with confidence? What does that actually mean? What's the foundation of endeavoring with confidence? Does it mean
Faith.
right? You got it right, Patty.
Nanda?
Nandaji.
Hare Krishna. So, like many things in devotional service, let me just shut off my audio in the back here. Sorry. Okay. Like many things in devotional service, it's not that you start off at the most highest level of confidence. You don't necessarily start there, but we start. In general, we just start. And we have a little confidence because we've chanted Hare Krishna and it's relieved us of anxiety,
Wow.
it's relieved us of something. We've got some little small taste from it. So that
Right.
that helps our confidence it grows. The confidence grew, just like Dhruva Maharaj Prabhu was saying. We're cultivating. So we've heard we're not our body. And how many quadrillion times have we heard we're not our body? But at the same time, we've done a few things and we realized, oh yeah, I'm not.
Right.
And then the next minute we think, oh yeah, but I'm tired. I need to go to sleep or whatever. But I mean, it gradually
It's a
grows.
gradual process.
So in that sense, I just wanted to encourage all of us and myself included that it's a cultivation. It'll grow by
Right.
applying, just like Tisha and I have had a few talks over the last year or two, one or two at least a day, no, a week. And there's a test of the understanding, and then when one hears it, it refreshes one's faith in the process, and you apply it, and your confidence grows and grows and grows, little. It's not that you have to be the heavyweight champion
Right.
boxer at the first type.
Right. Yeah.
Okay.
It's not it's not the heavyweight at the first. It's a process, just like a flower growing. You have to give it time. It'll develop its leaves. It'll develop its fragrance and everything that a flower develops. I just want to read what Faye said. Oh, wait a minute. That wasn't Faye.
Acharya.
Acharya. That was great. Acharya, you read that, what you wrote.
Yeah, I said, I don't have the exact, I'm not looking at the
Okay,
exact
good.
words, but basically I said that the confidence is not necessarily in me or in my abilities, but it's dependent on confidence in Krishna, consciousness and confidence in Srila Prabhupada and his teachings, and in the efficacy of the process of Krishna consciousness.
Yeah, but still, that we have to have a little bit of confidence that if we follow this, just like we're going to read further what Prabhupada says about that if I just have the confidence in my endeavor with confidence means that surely Krishna will help me to be successful in my Krishna consciousness.
Right.
And that, when I read that again, it just really was wonderful. Before Murari, I wanted to ask, first of all, I want to congratulate Kelly Niketana for having taken initiation in the last week or two. And she was speaking to me the other day about how this book, having resurfaced, it was very meaningful for her to read Nectar of Instruction again. Do you have some comment upon this subject matter of confidence?
Hare Krishna, dear devotees. I actually was thinking about, I just logged in when you were talking, you started talking, I heard, confidence. I think the difference between, we can become puffed up, right? Or we have this knowledge, or we have, made some advancement or whatever because of Krishna, the Acharyas, spiritual master, all this process. So it's like, for me, it's having gratitude, giving it back completing the cycle of like, it's not really me. Whatever confidence I have is not really me. And that's, the difference between,
Okay.
having, yeah.
Well, there is one comment here. There's two things. It's a relationship, You can have, who is it that, why are you having confidence? Because you have faith in the words of the spiritual master. It's not just, this is open for everyone. How come you guys are sitting here today? Because you have faith. You have the desire to develop faith. You want to know the absolute truth. Krishna has to have something to work with. He gives you what you want. He has to have something to work with. If you're not interested, he'll let you go. If you're interested, then he'll reveal this. So faith, confidence, very important. This to have confidence in the endeavor that Krishna will surely make it successful, which is based on faith. So we have to make the endeavor to have some faith and hear from the acharyas.
Before we go on to Thakur
okay.
Murari, Tisha, are these answers addressing the topic of confidence from your point of view? Is that what you were, or is there some other specific element to it that you were hoping to get information or fuel or feedback from?
No, everyone's response was so helpful just to know we don't get
Okay,
there.
I just didn't know if we were on the right track, and I don't want to keep going down it if it wasn't fulfilling that.
And I appreciate
addressing
Kay
that.
about having faith and Samapriya for saying you have to have some kind of faith that the process is going to work.
Right. So anyway, it's a process. Keep going with it. Keep hearing. Shravanam Kirtanam. This book is everything. This little book tells the whole process of Krishna consciousness. So we have to take it for absolute, for reality. Okay, Thakur, did you want to say something? Hare Krishna.
Yeah, Hare Krishna, dear devotees, please accept my humble obeisances of those who Srila Prabhupada and the assembly devotees. So sorry I came in late, but the aspect of confidence, let's say, for example, one is going for an interview. So one has to make an endeavor to go. But there's something within you which says, based on what I know and whatever I know I've experienced, and based on whatever questions I'm going to ask, there's something with me tells me that, look, I'm going to do my best.
Yes.
So we know that the rest is up to Sri Krishna. But confidence is a process wherein, as you have said, faith has to be part of it. As we know, faith is part of the foundation. So it's a package, a process. Yes, so that's my take on it.
Good.
So
Very nice.
there has to be something you say, I am going to succeed, I'm going to do my best. Whatever happens, it's for the best. Yes.
Okay, so we covered the Shravana, Sama, we should move on.
Okay.
Shravan was the first one,
Yeah.
hearing. Hearing, if we believe what we read and it makes sense, then we should have the confidence to act upon it. If we don't, then we can continue to question. But if somebody says something, like if someone knows, like you're looking for directions, you're driving around and you're in a town where you're unfamiliar, but you roll down your window and said, you know where the library is. Oh yeah, you go down this, take a right, it's on the left. Then you have the confidence to at least follow it and see if that person was right.
Okay, I gotta ask you, it's pertinent. I know we have to go on, but what if, people feel humble, devotees are humble. Am I supposed to have confidence? Am I worthy of this? What do you do with that part?
Well, I think Acharyas...
It's taken me so long to,
Acharya's concept that rather than in the confidence in myself, I have confidence that I can follow somebody who knows. That's my confidence. If they tell me something and I believe it, then I'll act on it.
Right. Okay, good.
I see. That's a nice point too. Yeah, it's not ourself. It's actually the process.
It's ourselves also. We have to remember we're involved in this.
Yeah.
Right?
Of
Okay,
course.
let's go on. Do you want to read the next one too, Manvantaraji? Just so that we can keep some kind of sequence going here. Manvatara, you read.
I know there's something on my screen that's not allowing me to. Okay. All right. Thank you. I apologize.
Oh, sorry.
Under the direction of the bona fide spiritual master, one has to make everything favorable for Krishna's service. For example, at present we're using a dictaphone. The materialist who invented this machine intended it for businessmen or writers of mundane subject matters. He certainly never thought of using the dictaphone in God's service, but we're using this dictaphone to write Krishna conscious literature. Of course, the manufacture of the dictaphone is wholly within the energy of Krishna. All the parts of the instrument, including the electronic functions, are made from different combinations and interactions of the 5 basic types of material energy, namely Bhumi, Gala, Agni, Vayu, and Akasha. According to the statement of Krishna, Matstani Sarva Bhutani, Bhagavad Gita chapter 9, text 4, everything is dependent on my energy. Thus, a devotee can understand that since nothing is independent of Krishna's energy, everything should be dovetailed in his service. Endeavor, executed with intelligence in Krishna consciousness, is called utashaha, or enthusiasm. The devotees find the correct means by which everything can be utilized in the service of the Lord.
Randa Krishna Sambandha Yuktam Vairagyam Yuchate.
Thank you. The execution of devotional service is not a matter of idle meditation, but practical action in the foreground of spiritual life.
Ah,
I know,
Everything-
heavy.
everything here is so important. It's a condensed perfection. Can you say anything about
Well, I
this?
like the dictaphone ideology, because it is a practical example of utilizing regular everyday things you encounter and using it in Krishna's service. And everything we can use practically. I've yet to find something I can't use in Krishna's service.
Okay, what's the word that we always use for that? Prabhupada always uses
Dovetail?
Good.
Yeah.
Dovetail. Okay. Does anyone else want to comment on this? Not, we will go on. Is this the next page? Patsy?
Yes.
Okay. Acharya, you want to read?
Yes, I'd love to. Thank you. Continued. These activities must be executed with patience. One should not be impatient in Krishna consciousness. Indeed, this Krishna consciousness movement was started single-handedly. And in the beginning, there was no response. But because we continue to execute our devotional activities with patience, people gradually began to understand the importance of this movement, and now they are eagerly participating. One should not be impatient in discharging devotional service, but should take instructions from the spiritual master and execute them with patience, depending on the mercy of Guru and Krishna. The successful execution of Krishna conscious activities requires both patience and confidence. A newly married girl naturally expects offspring from her husband, but she cannot expect to have them immediately after marriage. Of course, as soon as she is married, she can attempt to get a child, but she must surrender to her husband, confident that her child will develop and be born in due time. Similarly, in devotional service, surrender means that one has to become confident. The devotee thinks, Avashya Rakshibe Krishna. Krishna will surely protect me and give me help for the successful execution of devotional service. This is called confidence.
Okay, Tisha, do you see that quote? I have been meditating on this quote since I read it this week. Okay, you should write this down, meditate on it. It's very wonderful. Krishna will surely protect me and give me help for the successful execution of devotional service. Give me help. He will give me help. He sees how we're trying. He will give us help. Okay,
I
What
think
verses?
in the beginning, Srila Prabhupada often used that to people. He gave them assignments in features of life that they had no training. You know, go out and distribute books, go out and print books, go out and buy a house, go out and start a temple. Well, how can I do that? Krishna will give you the intelligence. Krishna will help you.
Wow.
Mm.
Okay, there's another question about patience. That word is used, Acharya, in the Tatenum Kampam Shushamikshmana verse. Do you know where?
Tatenukum Bunjana Eva Kritam Ridvagva Porbir Viridan Namaste. That one patiently accepts the reactions coming to him,
Yeah.
and at the same time goes on offering obeisances
Yeah.
with his mind,
Very
body, and
good.
words.
Yeah, very good. That's what I just thought of it this time. Very nice.
Yeah, yeah. I also like in this purport, Prabhupada giving his own example that he started to, preach this Krishna consciousness, and at first there was no result. And even if you look at, I still remember when what was it called? Planting the Seed, the volume
Yeah,
1
yeah.
of the Lilamrita came out. It's volume 1, but it was actually printed second. And when I read that, Prabhupada did so much before he even came to America.
Right. Yes.
And externally, you would say, oh, it was failure. He had one disciple. He couldn't start a movement. He was impeded in so many ways. You can say, oh, failure. But he was patient, and he went on, and then he came to America. And then also he had so much patience. And then Krishna, made it all happen. So the example of Prabhupada's life of being patient, he was patient for like 80 years or 70 years. So,
Very patient. Yeah, who
and
crosses
he
the
was
ocean
never
at 70?
discouraged.
Who does what Prabhupada did? You cross the ocean at 70 years old to start a world movement that he did in 12 years, and then he
Yeah.
went back to Bali. But this is
Yeah.
When this book first came out, I remember a devotee gave a really nice class on the balance between enthusiasm and patience.
Mm.
Right? If we're over enthusiastic, then that's the mode of passion. And if we're, hey, I'm patient, I don't have to, then that can lead into lethargy and the mode of ignorance. So it was a nice concept. With confidence, one can find that balance. Because like you're saying, your example, Acharya, that years may go by, but he remained enthusiastic
Mm.
and confident that he was following the order of his spiritual master. That was Srila Prabhupada's, I think, confident thread that he held on to his entire life.
and another really important point about patience is that it takes time for things to develop. We were discussing this before. It takes time to plant a seed and see the tree and get the fruit. And, this is not like Nanda was saying in the beginning of the class. This is not something that happens overnight. This is when you first come to Krishna consciousness. If the first week you're not a pure devotee, don't give up. It takes a while. Everything takes time in this. I am time. Not only destroyer of the worlds, but creator of the worlds. Everything takes time to develop, and patience is giving it the time to develop. Otherwise, you cut it off. And it didn't, the flower didn't bloom. Forget about it. Take it out. It's supposed to bloom in a month and, 2 days later. So very important. Okay, let's go on. Try to read the next page.
Me again?
Yes.
Okay. As already explained, one should not be idle, but should be very enthusiastic about executing the regulative principles, tat tat karma pravartana. Neglect of the regulative principles will destroy devotional service. In this Krishna consciousness movement, there are 4 basic regulative principles: forbidding illicit sex, meat eating, gambling, and intoxication. A devotee must be very enthusiastic about following these principles. If he becomes slack in following any of them, his progress will certainly be checked. Srila Rupa Goswami therefore recommends tat tat karma pravartanat. One must strictly follow the regulative principles of Vaidhi Bhakti. In addition to these 4 prohibitions, yama, there are positive regulative principles, niyama, such as the daily chanting of 16 rounds on japa mala beads. These regulative activities must be faithfully performed with enthusiasm. This is called tatta karma pravartana, or varied engagement in devotional service.
Very nice. So can you tell us something about this, especially
Yeah,
japa?
this
Tell
this
me
is
something.
this is the 3rd time in this purport so far that he's mentioned this point, that it's not just sitting idly, but there's actually stuff to do. So that's one thing. This is the 3rd time he's mentioning it, so that's important. I also remember just a nice way of putting it. One time Srila Prabhupada said, in Krishna consciousness, we have 1 yes and 4 no's. And of course, the 1 yes is chant Hare Krishna, and the 4 no's are the 4 regulative principles. But he said it's very simple: 1 yes, 4 no's.
Very good. Chant Hare
Nice,
Krishna.
haven't heard that one before.
Yeah, I'll look. I don't off the top of my head know, but I'll look for the reference for that.
Tisha, you have something?
What do y'all think about using like a counter to chant? Because Prabhupada says, chanting your 16 rounds on a mala bead.
Practicality. For
Okay.
people in the West, when you're preaching, when you're doing a different kind of seva, sometimes it's basically the best thing is to chant your 16 rounds complete from 1 to 16 all at once, because then you start to get a real taste. And then you say, oh, I'm still hungry. Then you can add some more rounds. But that's the best that we can do. But we have to also be practical. Like, you might not have time to do this if you're chanting and you're on your way going someplace, or if you have time, this is a good chanting time for you. You have to. Everyone's an individual. I'm not going to say don't chant on clickers. I have all kinds of different kinds of clickers. I've been through them all. The little ones, the big, the digital, and the whole thing. But be practical. Be practical. Best is to sit down and chant 16 without stop. But if you can't do that, best is to chant 16 rounds daily. Attentively. We want to be attentive. But don't not chant because you can't use your beads, like you're working and you have a break and you want to chant. Definitely, it's a very practical thing. We are You know what Brahmananda, my godbrother, said one time? He said Prabhupada said that Krishna consciousness is 90% common sense. So be practical. We do have brains; we can use them. Let's have confidence. Okay. What next? Who's reading next? You're finished. Okay, Tisha, why don't you read?
Okay, Hare Krishna. Continued. Furthermore, in order to be successful in devotional service, one must give up the association of undesirable people. This includes karmis, yanis, yogis, and other non-devotees. Once, Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu was asked by one of his householder devotees about the general principles of Vaishnavism, as well as the general routine activities of the Vaishnava. And Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu immediately replied, Asat Sangha Tyaga, I Vaishnava Achara. Chaitanya Charitamrita Madhya 2287. Characteristically, a Vaishnava is one who gives up the association of worldly people or non-devotees. Srila Narottama Das Thakur has therefore recommended Tandera Charana Sevi Bhakta Sane Vasa. One has to live in the company of pure devotees and execute the regulative principles laid down by the previous acharyas. The 6 Goswamis, namely Sri Rupa Goswami, Sri Sanatana Goswami, Sri Jiva Goswami, Sri Raghunatha Dasa Goswami, Sri Gopala Bhatta Goswami, and Sri Raghunatha Bhatta Goswami. If one lives in the association of devotees, there is little chance of associating with non-devotees. The International Society for Krishna Consciousness is opening many centers just to invite people to live in the company of devotees and practice the regulative principles of spiritual life. This is called Satovritti, or following in the footsteps of the previous acharyas who expertly filled every moment of time with Krishna consciousness activity. Wow.
Very good.
Every
what-
moment.
Yeah, every moment. So that's what you've done. You came you came here to live in the Association of Devotees. Of course, you have to go to work. That's fine. But still, you live in the Association of Devotees. Your neighbors are devotees. You go and see devotees. You partake in programs with devotees. We're going to have Rath Yatra that you, I think, are very much involved in. So, this is wonderful. What else do you have about this section? What can you say?
Well, it's so fitting for me to have read it because I spent so many years talking about living here, knowing that living with everyone, having association is critical. It's a critical step. You have to, because if you're always going to remember Krishna or serve the devotees, then you have to be near them,
Yeah, you do.
It's very difficult to be separate, very difficult.
Cannot do this on your own. You can. We're social beings. Okay.
Oh,
So
no,
let's-
also before we go on, Acharya, not everybody reads the forums, I'm sure, but you wrote you kind of fluffed this Satovritti out. Can you give us a little further explanation about what your realization in this particular feature of following in the footsteps of previous acharyas?
Okay, very, very briefly, Prabhupada very properly and intelligently translates Satovritti as following in the footsteps of the acharyas. But Satovritti also literally means that your vritti means like your livelihood, like your actual work or engagement is sat, is truthful, is honest. And Prabhupada doesn't address it here, but in several lectures and conversations, he addresses that aspect of Satovritti, that your work, whatever your work, your business should be honest, should be straightforward. So that's another aspect of Satovritti, that I'm practicing Krishna consciousness, but in my business, I'm cheating people, or I work at the butcher shop, or whatever it may be. That's also part of it. And Bhaktivinoda Thakur also discusses it, and he discusses 3 ways of understanding Satovritti. One is, as Prabhupada explains, that the actual activities of devotional service following the acharyas. And another meaning is adhering to Varnashram Dharma. And another meaning is just being honest and simple and straightforward in your business and in your dealings.
Which sounds like a real practical application for us in the modern day, since we're not in a Varnashram institution or whatever.
Right.
And we can see that the movement is not a society large enough to accommodate everyone's economic needs yet. So people have to work outside. Make sure you're doing honest labor.
And there's also
Good.
varnashrams, so people will have different interests and different ways to engage themselves that, this Brahminical movement might not ever facilitate.
Yeah. And of course, the most important is what Prabhupada stresses in his commentary, that it's following in the footsteps of the Acharya. But to keep us behaving well, I think it's good to keep those other ideas of Satovritti in our mind also.
Good. Excellent. Thank you. All right, Tisha, go on with the next one.
Okay, continued. If one strictly follows the advice given in this verse by Srila Rupa Goswami, namely being enthusiastic, being confident, being patient, giving up the association of unwanted persons, following the regulative principles, and remaining in the association of devotees, one is sure to advance in devotional service. In this regard, Srila Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Thakur remarks that the cultivation of knowledge by philosophical speculation, the collection of mundane opulence by the advancement of fruitive activities, and the desire for yoga siddhis, material perfections, are all contrary to the principles of devotional service. One has to become thoroughly callous to such non-permanent activities and turn his attention instead to the regulative principles of devotional service. Devotional service is so pure and perfect that once having begun, one is forcibly dragged to ultimate success. Wow. Sometimes a person will give up his ordinary material engagements and out of sentiment take shelter of the lotus feet of the Supreme Lord and thus begin the preliminary execution of devotional service. Even if such an immature devotee falls down, there is no loss on his part. On the other hand, what is the gain of one who executes the prescribed duties according to his varna and ashrama, but does not take to devotional service? Although a fallen devotee may take his next birth in a low family, his devotional service will nonetheless resume from where it left off. Devotional service is aituki apratihata. It is not the effect of any mundane cause, nor can it be terminated by any mundane cause or permanently curtailed by any material interruption. Therefore, a devotee should be confident about his engagement.
Another confident,
Yeah.
another reference to that. These are these little hints here. Very important to remember that, because it helps your faith, you know. We always want to hear about, we want to be encouraged in devotional service. That's why I like to give people different sections of books about the holy name. We need to be encouraged to practice this, to know that it's real. So keep reading these things. Go on.
It tickles me that Prabhupada said that you would be forcibly dragged to ultimate success. That's so great.
Yeah, that's Nanda's favorite line.
Nanda,
Love it.
explain that a little bit to us. Actually, I send these to Nanda. She kind of goes over them, and she suggested we include this. She said it's one of our most famous quotes by Srila Prabhupada.
Hare Krishna. Yeah, because it's so encouraging, right? And the thing about statements like this, it seems like it hits you as an independent statement, but actually when we think about it, it's all throughout the scriptures. Like Krishna says in Bhagavad Gita, in this endeavor, there's no loss or diminution, and a little endeavor will, keep you going. But the way that he says it there, that this devotional service is so pure and perfect that one is forcibly dragged to ultimate success. It's like, just like Tisha said, it's like, wow. It's just so encouraging. Keeps us going. Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna. Thank you.
Something to keep in mind in those times when confidence is shaky.
See, that's why it's two sides. Krishna is seeing us. We have to make the endeavor. It's the 2 inches. Mother Yasoda and the 2 inches. It's the devotee's endeavor and Krishna's mercy. So both have to be there.
So before we go on, any questions or more comments on these 6? Enthusiasm, confident, patient, giving up association of unwanted persons, following the regulative principles, and remaining in the association of devotees. One is sure to advance in devotional service if we can include those 6 in our lives. Okay. Manvantara.
Manvantara.
Yeah. When it comes to like, I struggle with the whole non-devotee thing, like with families and, bygone friends, college friends and stuff like that. And clearly at this stage in the game, given my duration in Krishna consciousness, I don't know if they're going to change. If they probably won't ever change, but, when it comes to association, what is that? You know what I mean? Like, how is that?
Sometimes you have to, like, my brother's coming here to visit me on his way up to New Jersey.
Yeah.
I see him like a few times a year.
Right.
And, he's my brother. I have to try to give them some prasadam, and we can't not have our relationships with our family. It's and also it's from them too, just like those two sides. They have to be a little receptive, or your relationship with them changes. But and also the people that you work with, you have to give your association, take it as a lesson in Krishna consciousness. You give your association, and they've said, oh my God, Tisha's such a far out person, and they don't have any clue of why she's a far out person. Of course, they're learning, I'm sure, because prasadam and love and Krishna, we have to bring Krishna consciousness.
We're not fanatics. It's not fanatic.
Well, we were fanatic. And there was a lot of grief.
That's why I don't have any relationship with my family.
Oh, God. Well,
must be so.
We have to not be. Oh, yeah. Kaylee.
I was just gonna say that I think this is one like a common aspect that gets how can I put this, like what your comment, Manvantara, like it's something that I struggled with too. The first time I ever read this, probably why I didn't ever read this book again in 10 years past. But I think this isn't like a starter book, right? Would you say that?
This is an eternal book.
Priya?
This is eternal.
Right, but it's not something you would like give like as a.
You have to be expert.
I don't know.
You have to be expert.
She's saying that the topics in this is not something that you'd give to somebody in the very beginning, like the first book you ever give them about Krishna consciousness. That's her question, I believe. Is that right, Kaylee?
Well, it's more just a comment, because I had the same reaction when I read this. I did read this like very early on, like 10, 15 years ago. And I was like, whoa, I don't know about this. I don't want, I don't know if I'm going to really, this sounds like a cult to me or something. Like it was maybe a mistake to read it so early, because you have to be expert. We're not that it's like you said, Mother Sama Priya, it's not that we're saying like just don't talk to your family anymore. They're your family.
We made a lot of mistakes in the beginning. We really, really did. And some of us pay for it still. But the most important thing is just to be yourself and be a Krishna conscious you, so that everyone falls in love with you. That's the first, even when you sell a book to someone, just like anything else, 50%, 90% is the person you have to sell yourself. The person has to love you. Oh, you're so nice. I'll take this in here. Your family already loves you. And your mother came to your initiation. I mean, that's pretty cool. So I don't think you're right. Oh, here's Nanda with a comment.
There's a few hands up.
Oh, everybody. Okay, Nanda.
A lot of the fanaticism came as a result of the application or misunderstanding proper way to apply it, because we think, and I thought similarly like Dhruva, that okay, that means I don't want to have anything to do with my family, but that was a misunderstanding. The other verses tell us how to communicate, how do we develop friendships and communication in Krishna consciousness. There's instructions there, offering gifts in charity, accepting charitable gifts, revealing the mind in confidence, and inquiring confidentially. That's the level of intimacy that Srila Rupa Goswami is talking about, and association. It doesn't mean, oh, we never see non-devotees or we never see our family, but we're not now at this stage in our Krishna consciousness, we're not inquiring from our family members or our college friends, what's your advice for me? I'm having a hard time now, in my Krishna consciousness, or what kind of a job do you think I should have? Anyway, those are just.
So you're giving your association, in other words.
You're giving it, but you're not inquiring in that intimate way, for advice from someone who's not versed in Krishna consciousness. So just applying it in that way means, oh yeah, so my brother's coming, let me give him some prasadam, I have two sisters that are still alive. One is a tad more favorable, and every now and then I can say something like, we're not our bodies. And they go, what? You know what I mean? You can say one little teeny weeny thing, and the other one I can't say anything to. But, she gets prasadam or whatever. So it's how to apply it. That's the challenge.
Right.
Thank
It's actually a far out topic. How to deal with our families, you know. Okay, Acharya.
Yeah, Hare Krishna. I definitely understand and appreciate Kaylee Niketana's point, but I think Upadeshamrita is an awesome book for beginners. Maybe not for someone on the street who's never heard of Krishna consciousness, but for a very beginning person practicing devotional service, I think it's an awesome book because, you know, it starts right at the very beginning. Control your senses, control your tongue, control your belly, and like the instructions we've read today and last week, they're like very completely practical. And not only that, but as the book progresses, and we'll see that as we go through it, it goes from these beginning Vaidhi Bhakti rules and regulations all the way up to like the very highest, you know, Radha Prem and appreciating Radharani in the later verses. So I think it's if it's not misunderstood, and if the person is
There are
negating
some.
violence, it's an
That's the
awesome book
point
for
right
beginners.
there. If you have a good person who can help explain it
Right.
and help understand it more clearly, you're in the association of devotees that are balanced. Which
There weren't so many balanced at
There
that
weren't.
time.
Yes, that's always a problem.
You know what to do about that particular. Don't associate with non-devotees. It was always very confusing. But of course, for us, our parents went through the 60s with us, so they were already, okay, what's next? You know, that was pretty far out for them. What is she going to do now? You know, so this was good, actually. Becoming a devotee and following the regulated principles, and you know, my whole family was intrigued, kind of how I went through became a devotee. All right, that's a whole thing. But
Tisha has her hand up.
Tisha, I'm sorry, Lai.
Oh, I was just gonna say kind of what Nanda was saying is I had to make my peace with this because especially when I was before I moved here, always with so many people in my circle, always with so many people. But there's a difference between being with people and, you know, working with people and making things happen, like producing festivals or doing events. There's a difference between doing that and associating with people, like going places with them, hanging out with them, taking part in their activities, and like being a part of their circle. That, to me, I never did that, but I did work with people. There's like a difference.
Good. Yes, there is.
I made my
Fine.
peace by doing that, you know, by being a part of the group, but not really in the group, you know.
Exactly. Perfect. Bhaktivinoda Thakur was a court judge. So in one sense, he was associating with criminals, but he was the judge, and, you know, he kept his sadhana very strict. So he applied it in that way. Perfect.
Okay. Are we ready to go on? This is very nice discussions we come up with. Okay, so now we're starting text number 4. And Thakur Murari, are you with us? Would you like to read? And then Kaylee Niketana. Is he here? Or he might not be here. What happened? He's not here. Okay, Caitlin, Kelly, why don't you read? Kaylee Niketana.
Hare Krishna. Upadeshamrita text 4, offering gifts in charity, accepting charitable gifts, revealing one's mind and confidence, inquiring confidently, accepting prasada, and offering prasada are the 6 symptoms of love shared by one devotee to another. In this verse, Srila Rupa Goswami explains how to perform devotional activities in the association of other devotees. There are 6 kinds of activities. Giving in charity to the devotees. 2, accepting from the devotees whatever they may offer in return. 3, opening one's mind to the devotees. 4, inquiring from them about the confidential service of the Lord. 5, honoring prasada or spiritual food given by the devotees. And 6, feeding the devotees with prasada. An experienced devotee explains, and an inexperienced devotee learns from him. This is Guyam Akyati Prichati. When a devotee distributes prasada, remnants of food offered to the Supreme Personality of Godhead, in order to maintain our spirit of devotional service, we must accept this prasada as the Lord's grace received through the pure devotees. We should also invite pure devotees to our home, offer them prasada, and always be prepared to please them in all respects. This is called Bhunakte Bhojate Chaiva.
Right. So what can you say about this?
I think it's well, this is very different, like from our just standard American upbringing. For me, it was like just the idea of service, and this is just, you know, really laying it out how we can relate to one another in a mood of service,
Right.
and humility, because that's really counterintuitive to everything that is really just in the mainstream right now. You know, it's all about I, me, and mine, and independence, and yeah, just very greedy. So this is just really, I mean, this is it right here. This is how
Yeah.
we're actually supposed to be interacting with each other.
With devotees. Prabhupada says further, I don't know if we cut that part out, but that if you in order to you don't do this kind of intimate activity with non-devotees. So it's a
Mhm.
difference. You have a relationship with devotees, but even with your family, you have to always keep yourself very Krishna conscious, but very sensitive, and not inquire so much about life situations. But you're giving them something, so they're loving you. You know, don't expect to have a very deep, profound situation with a family member who wants to know nothing about Krishna. You know, but that doesn't mean that you can't have a relationship for 50, 60 years with that person, and you're Krishna conscious. And my brother calls me Haribol. You know, that's what he says, Haribol. You know, after so long, you know, and he know the other day when last time he came to visit, he said, Haribol. You know, he wanted to get on the good side of me. So I could tell. Probably his wife said, "Do you want to get on the good side of your sister?" Hare Krishna. That's how you do it. And so he did it. Anyway, so
I
there's a
also think
difference.
I
Yes.
also think even what I forget which number it was, but about even amongst devotees, like learning how to talk about the Lord. I mean, it's you know, I just look up to so much, you know, many people who are much more versed in scripture than I am, who can always, you know, somehow bring Krishna into just daily conversation. And that is, you know, even just amongst devotees, it's something that we need to practice more,
Yeah.
you know, and just become more versed in our scripture, and just able to always bring it back to Krishna.
See everything in relation to Krishna.
Yeah.
Everything. And ultimately, we have to do that if you want to go back to Godhead, because otherwise, all that other stuff will come in. And so sometimes it's a little fight. You know, we have to work on it. You know, don't think about it, think it in terms of Krishna. And that does come from Shravanam Kirtanam. It comes from hearing. We have to constantly be hearing, which means reading. Okay, shall we go on with because I'm forgetful. Who, Kayla, you were reading, so I guess you read this one too, because everyone's reading too.
This society
Yeah.
was started single-handedly, but because people are coming forward and dealing with the give and take policy, the society is now expanding all over the world. We are glad that people are donating very liberally to the development of the society's activities, and people are so eagerly accepting whatever humble contribution we are giving to them in the shapes of books and magazines dealing strictly with the subject matter of Krishna consciousness. We sometimes hold Hare Krishna festivals and invite the members and friends to participate in the feasting by accepting prasad. Although most of our members come from the higher rungs of society, they nonetheless come and take whatever little prasad we are able to offer them. Sometimes the members and supporters inquire very confidentially about the methods of performing devotional service, and we try to explain this. In this way, our society is successfully spreading all over the world, and intelligentsia of all countries is gradually appreciating our Krishna conscious activities. The life of Krishna conscious society is nourished by these 6 types of loving exchange among the members. Therefore, people must be given the chance to associate with the devotees of ISKCON, because simply by reciprocating in the 6 ways mentioned above, an ordinary man can fully revive his dormant Krishna consciousness.
Wow. Just one comment, then I want you to think about this. Look how Prabhupada, his field of activities is the world. It's the world. It's how to follow these principles in relationship to his field of activities, which is making Krishna conscious people all over the world. It's amazing, his field of activities. So how does it apply to you?
It's a very high bar. it's it really just, from what I understand, he was a man of always, he was always strategizing too, right? Like, how are we going to save humanity? So it's a really high bar. It really is. It's,
one thing that I think is very simple. Everybody have a little bowl of candy, especially if you're in a place where you're working and you have people coming to your desk, or you're in charge of something. You always have prasadam there. Always have prasadam. It is the easiest way to preach. You make a nice offering. I mean, how much candy prasadam this movement has passed out over the years. And I'm always doing that as well. Anybody who comes to your door, basically, you give prasad. If the UPS guy comes, or Amazon, there's Amazon people, they have a whole meal because they go from devotee to devotee, and everyone's giving them prasad. You people, I'm full already. No, but this is,
A couple of years ago, there was an Amazon driver named Bhakta Charlie. Now his name's Chaitanya Charan.
Yeah, he's on the Amazon Bhakta program that we started. So it's very important. That's a simple way. And people will start loving you, because why are you giving them something? Nobody gives anybody anything, Start simple,
What kind of candy?
Well, I like to do
any
Werther's, high class candy, Werther's. And when we go away to the campsites in the mountains, I give everybody Werther's, and to the point of where, do you have any Werther's for me anymore? I come back next year. And then sometimes we find the Werther's wrappers on the floor. That's not good, but anything to make them engaged. That's why you got to become expert at public relations. You're always representing Prabhupada and Krishna. So
Another thing, I don't like, just thinking of Kaylee Niketan's new yoga studio. You'd have to have something healthy, but you could also, if you bake it all, you can have some cookies or something in a basket and just have them there. And
he's got 2 kids. Don't worry about it. Simple. Do simple.
Yeah, exactly.
Whatever is simple. Don't over endeavor, because then you won't maintain it.
Oh, Faith put down here bottled water. Something as simple as that.
That's nice too. Something that you offer to Krishna so you can give this prasad, the simplest thing.
Yeah.
Cookies is always nice. I mean to say it. My husband, he likes my cookies too. But
but you're right. She's
if you're already over the top,
taxed.
But I do like to distribute cookies. I always have the cookies here, and then they start talking. This Chaitanya Charan said one time, he was talking to another guy, the Amazon person, and the guy said, "Yeah, I went to this lady's house. She gave me some cookies, and then she taught me how to chant Hare Krishna, and he knew exactly who that was." So, you do it the way you can, but have fun with it and give everyone Krishna and you already have 2 kids and you have yoga and you're overdone. So just get some Werther's and offer it. So, or healthy candy, whatever. All right, we should go on. Now, I guess Takamurari is gone with the wind somewhere. I don't know where he is. In that case, we will start with Manvantara again. Would you like to read again, Manvantaraji?
In Bhagavad Gita, chapter 2, text 62, it is stated, Sangat sanjayate kama, one's desire and activities develop according to the company one keeps. It is often said that a man is known by his company. And if an ordinary man associates with devotees, he will certainly develop his dormant Krishna consciousness. The understanding of Krishna consciousness is innate in every living entity, and it is already developed to some extent when the living entity takes a human body. It is said in Chaitanya Charitamrita, Madhya Lila, chapter 22, text 107. Pure love for Krishna is eternally established within the hearts of the living entities. It is not something to be gained from another source. When the heart is purified by hearing and chanting, this love naturally awakens. The living entity naturally awakens. Since Krishna consciousness is inherent in every living entity, everyone should be given the chance to hear about Krishna. Simply by hearing and chanting, Sarvanam Kirtanam, Srimad Bhagavatam, Canto 7, Chapter 5, Text 23. One's heart is directly purified, and one's original Krishna consciousness is immediately awakened. Krishna consciousness is not artificially imposed upon the heart. It is already there. When one chants the holy name of the Supreme Personality of Godhead, the heart is cleansed of all mundane contamination. Contributing or distributing the holy name of the Lord is a sublime example of contributing or given charity, the Datati principle. By the same token, one must also follow the Pratigrinati principle and be willing and ready to receive the transcendental gift. One should inquire about the Krishna consciousness movement and open his mind in order to understand the situation of this material world. Thus, the Guyam Akutati principle can be served. I'm not sure if I couldn't really.
Gujam Akyati Prichati.
Okay, thank you.
So this sounds like Prabhupada's talking to new people as well. Kaylee, Krishna. That sounds like that he is talking to some new people. This is the most important thing that we can give to each other and to others is Krishna consciousness. You know, that's what the soul wants. So we want to do. Anything else? Do you want to comment on this, Mamadara? Anything here? Pure love for Krishna. How about that one? That's a what's the Sanskrit for that? You just said a Krishna Prem Sajika Pranay. Pure love for Krishna is established in the hearts of living entities. It is not something to be gained from another place, from another source. So that means that's how that on this particular understanding is how Krishna consciousness was spread throughout the world. How Prabhupada spread Krishna consciousness, understanding this factor that it's in everyone's heart. And if you start talking to someone about Krishna at different levels of whatever they're ready for, you will touch that person, you will touch the soul.
Yes, I agree. Yeah.
Anyone
You
else?
just have to give them Krishna. You got to meet them, like you said, on their level, wherever they're at. You kind of have to be expert at that, though, trying to connect with where they're at. But it's really, when I say expert, you just have to have some life experience. You don't have to know the psychology, but just to reach someone.
Well, psychology is there. You don't have to go to school to learn the psychology.
Exactly.
But, common sense, be nice to people and they'll respond nicely.
Right.
Give someone something, give some love. Everyone is starving for love in this world. Starving. So if we give them some love, we'll say, what? They'll come to life. And then you tell them to chant Hare Krishna. Why not tell them? Say Krishna. Krishna. Why? Very rarely will someone not say it. Usually, I don't know what that is. I'm not going to say it, sometimes. But generally, people, they want to know this. All right. You have to
Yeah,
unmute.
before we go on, a lot of the talk that we just covered the last several minutes was more or less about people who don't know anything about Krishna and how to deal with them. But actually, this verse also talks about how devotees relate with one another. It says here, offering gifts in charity, accepting charitable gifts, revealing one's mind and confidence, inquiring confidentially, accepting prasad and offering prasad are 6 symptoms of love shared by one devotee and another. Just wanted to bring that up as well, because especially here in Alachua, we're very fortunate that this is constantly going on. There's programs in homes, there's programs everywhere, festivals, different things, different opportunities to interact in these 6 ways.
It's amazing. Such a thriving Krishna conscious community. Okay, now we're on a new thing. And Charya, you want to go on?
Yes. Upadeshamrita, text 5. One should mentally honor the devotee who chants the holy name of Lord Krishna. One should offer humble obeisances to the devotee who has undergone spiritual initiation, diksha, and is engaged in worshiping the deity. And one should associate with and faithfully serve that pure devotee who is advanced in undeviated devotional service and whose heart is completely devoid of the propensity to criticize others. Purport. In order to intelligently apply the 6-fold loving reciprocations mentioned in the previous verse, one must select proper persons with careful discrimination. Srila Rupa Goswami therefore advises that we should meet with the Vaishnavas in an appropriate way, according to their particular status. In this verse, he tells us how to deal with 3 types of devotees: the Kanishta Adhikari, Madhyama Adhikari, and Uttama Adhikari. The Kanishta Adhikari is a neophyte who has received the Harinam initiation from the spiritual master and is trying to chant the holy name of Krishna. One should respect such a person within his mind as a Kanishta Vaishnava. A Madhyama Adhikari has received spiritual initiation from the spiritual master and has been fully engaged by him in the transcendental loving service of the Lord. The Madhyama Adhikari should be considered to be situated midway in devotional service. The Uttama Adhikari, or highest devotee, is one who is very advanced in devotional service. An Uttama Adhikari is not interested in blaspheming others. His heart is completely clean, and he has attained the realized state of unalloyed Krishna consciousness. According to Srila Rupa Goswami, the association and service of such a Mahabhagavat, or perfect Vaishnava, are most desirable.
Okay, what does this mean?
It's nice that, as Prabhupada says in the beginning of the purport, that it's a further explanation of the previous verse. That you may think, oh, I have these 6 principles and I can apply them indiscriminately to everyone the same in every circumstance. And Prabhupada said, no, they're for everyone, but the way they're applied is different according to the person you're dealing with. So I think that's a nice further explanation, further analysis of those 6 principles, that you do them, but there's a way to do it with different persons. So I think that's
Right.
Important point and a really interesting point.
Yeah. And it's also interesting in this community where there are so many different kinds of devotees. I mean, it's a really unique situation that we have here. And it's a society. That's what happens in society, especially people get born, they grow old, and and they live through the life cycle, and they live through the cycle of Krishna consciousness developing, and so we're very fortunate to be in this situation and deal with devotees in this way.
Yeah. I sometimes think of it like a big family, that
It
in a
is.
big family, you love everyone in the family. and you deal with everyone nicely in the family. But if it's like a very, intelligent and great and very nice, well-wishing uncle, you'll deal with that person in certain ways. And if it's I hate to use the expression like the black sheep of the family, or there's some ne'er-do-well cousin who's not doing so well, you'll also have a loving relationship with him, but you'll also be a little different in how you deal with him, even though
Those are two
he's still a loving
extremes.
member of the family, but you're still adjusting your dealings. So sometimes I think of it like that,
It's true.
that they're all worthy of love and respect, but it's still different for different
Yeah.
classes.
Good. All worthy of love and respect. God, what a world this would be, huh? I've never really felt like that. Okay, let's go on to the next page. Or, yeah, go on. I'm reading it already. This is your second page, right?
Yes.
Okay, keep reading.
One should not remain a Kanishta Adhikari, one who is situated on the lowest platform of devotional service and is interested only in worshiping the deity in the temple. Such a devotee is described in the 11th canto of Srimad Bhagavatam, Canto 11, Chapter 2, Text 47. A person who is very faithfully engaged in the worship of the deity in the temple, but who does not know how to behave towards devotees or people in general, is called a Prakrita Bhakta or Kanishta Adhikari. One therefore has to raise himself from the position of Kanishta Adhikari to the platform of Madhyama Adhikari. The Madhyama Adhikari is described in Srimad Bhagavatam 11.246 in this way, quote, the Madhyama Adhikari is a devotee who worships the Supreme Personality of Godhead as the highest object of love, makes friends with the Lord's devotees, is merciful to the ignorant, and avoids those who are envious by nature, unquote. When one fully engages in chanting the Hare Krishna Maha Mantra, he gradually realizes his own spiritual identity. When a person realizes himself to be an eternal servitor of Krishna, he loses interest in everything but Krishna's service. Always thinking of Krishna, devising means by which to spread the holy name of Krishna, he understands that his only business is in spreading the Krishna consciousness movement all over the world. Such a person is to be recognized as an Uttama Adhikari, and his association should be immediately accepted according to the 6 processes, Dadati, Pratigrinati, etc. Indeed, the advanced Uttama Adhikari Vaishnava devotee should be accepted as a spiritual master.
You want to comment on this section?
It's a great analysis of the these 3 classes of devotees. And also, I think it's in a way like a callback when he says the Uttama Adhikari should be accepted as a spiritual master. We can think back even to text 1 of Upadeshamrita, that what's that, Prithivim Sashishyat, that such a person is qualified to become a spiritual master, to accept disciples all over the world. So, take it in that context also. That this is the advanced devotee. His senses are controlled, his anger, his tongue, belly, genitals, all of that, and plus the further qualifications mentioned now. So I just thought it was a nice sort of a callback to that verse.
Good. Very good. Why don't you read, Pati? Let's go on just to the next verse. The next, it's just a little teeny weeny bit on the next page. Yeah, just finish this up, and then we have another.
I should read that again.
Yeah, just finish.
Okay.
Yeah, you'll be finished.
Continued. In this verse, Srila Rupa Goswami advises the devotee to be intelligent enough to distinguish between the Kanishta Adhikari, Madhyama Adhikari, and Uttama Adhikari. The devotee should also know his own position and should not try to imitate a devotee situated on a higher platform. Srila Bhaktivinoda Thakur has given some practical hints to the effect that an Uttama Adhikari Vaishnava can be recognized by his ability to convert many fallen souls to Vaishnavism. One should not become a spiritual master unless he has attained the platform of Uttama Adhikari. A neophyte Vaishnava or a Vaishnava situated on the intermediate platform can also accept disciples, but such disciples must be on the same platform, and it should be understood that they cannot advance very well toward the ultimate goal of life under his insufficient guidance. Therefore, a disciple should be careful to accept an Uttama Adhikari as a spiritual master.
Hare Krishna.
And I don't want to comment on that.
Okay.
If you
no
don't mind,
comment.
I'll
Okay.
refrain.
Okay.
Because Prabhupada has said a lot of different things at a lot of different places about this.
Okay. This is, yeah, let's not be political today. Okay.
One thing that I think is important, don't want to lose it before we go too far, because Rupa Goswami is saying that one should be intelligent enough to distinguish between these different types of Vaishnavas. And in the previous verse, at least these two, he gave a specific, almost like definition. And I just wanted to point out the difference between a Kanishta Adhikari and a Madhyama Adhikari. The person who is very faithfully engaged in worshiping the deity in the temple, but who does not know how to behave towards devotees or people in general, is called a Prakriti Bhakta or a Kanishta Adhikari. And the person who worships the Supreme Personality of Godhead as the highest object of, makes friends with the Lord's devotees, merciful to the ignorant, and avoids those who are envious of him, envious by nature, is a Madhyama Adhikari. So what's the difference between these two?
That the Kanishta does not know how to discriminate and the Madhyama does.
Excellent. And then, like you gave the example of the family, they reciprocate differently according to a person's nature and status. Manvantara?
I'm sorry, it really wasn't a burning question, but I just wanted to make reference. But just because I have to say something then, this distinction can also be with the pastimes of Krishna's maternal uncle, Ukara, who came and picked him up from,
Akrura?
Akura.
Akura. Compared to somebody like Uddhava, you know what I mean? Like
Akrura.
Akura, thank you, is said is the maternal uncle of Krishna. So that means it's Devaki's brother, right?
Something like that.
Yeah, but it may be from a different mom, maternal, whatever. But the point is, even Krishna dealt with each of them differently, or according to their
very good observation.
Their situation.
That's
but I also wanted to take the opportunity before we leave to really say congratulations to our new disciple. The name, I don't want to say Caitlin because but she can just say her name and what it means. I don't know if we have time to do that.
Sure we do.
Yeah, say your name, sweetie, and what it means.
Hare Krishna. Thank you. It's Kaylee Niketana, and it is Acharya actually posted a really nice, there's a verse that it's and maybe Acharya, you can say that verse that you posted or that you shared with me.
I don't have it memorized, but it's a verse from Vishwanath Chakravarti Thakur where he uses that phrase Keli Niketana to mean like the pastime place or the abode of pastimes.
How lovely. So you have to become the abode of pastimes of Krishna.
There you go.
That's no light order, sweetheart.
Clean heart.
Clean heart.
I need all of you desperately.
Hare Krishna.
Very dependent. I'm a 100% mercy case.
Yeah, like the rest of us. Hare Krishna.
Actually, Sama, there's another verse and there's 3 more slides.
Okay, let's go.
Maybe if you just read them and then have discussions after them.
Okay, that's what we'll do. Okay, so I think, did you, Acharya read? Now, Tisha, you want to read and then Kaylee Niketana can read.
Okay.
Upadesamrita Text 6. Being situated in his original Krishna conscious position, a pure devotee does not identify with the body. Such a devotee should not be seen from a materialistic point of view. Indeed, one should overlook a devotee's having a body born in a low family, a body with a bad complexion, a deformed body, or a diseased or infirm body. According to ordinary vision, such imperfections may seem prominent in the body of a pure devotee, but despite such seeming defects, the body of a pure devotee cannot be polluted. It is exactly like the waters of the Ganges, which sometimes during the rainy season are full of bubbles, foam, and mud. The Ganges waters do not become polluted. Those who are advanced in spiritual understanding will bathe in the Ganges without considering the condition of the water. Purport. Bhakti yoga is the proper activity of the soul, and when one actually engages in unalloyed, uncontaminated devotional service, he is already liberated. Sagunan samatityetam. Bhagavad Gita 14:26. Krishna's devotee is not subjected to material condition, even though his bodily features may appear materially conditioned. One should therefore not see a pure devotee from a materialistic point of view. Unless one is actually a devotee, he cannot see another devotee perfectly. As explained in the previous verse, there are three types of devotees: Kanishta Adhikari, Madhyama Adhikari, and Uttama Adhikari. The Kanishta Adhikari cannot distinguish between a devotee and a non-devotee. He is simply concerned with worshiping the deity in the temple. A Madhyama Adhikari, however, can distinguish between the devotee and non-devotee, as well as between the devotee and the Lord. Thus he treats the Supreme Personality of Godhead, the devotee, and the non-devotee in different ways.
Okay. So now we're going to go on. Madhurya Leela, who just joined us, would you read? And then Kaylee will read after.
Haribol.
Haribol, sweetie.
No one should criticize the bodily defects of a pure devotee. If there are such defects, they should be overlooked. What should be taken into account is a spiritual master's main business, which is devotional service, pure service to the Supreme Lord. If we consider the bodily defects of a Vaishnava, we should understand that we are committing an offense at the lotus feet of the Vaishnava. An offense at the lotus feet of a Vaishnava is very serious. Indeed, Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu has described this offense as Hatimata, the mad elephant offense. A mad elephant can create a disaster, especially when it enters into a nicely trimmed garden. One should therefore be very careful not to commit any offense against a Vaishnava. Every devotee should be ready to take instructions from a superior Vaishnava, and a superior Vaishnava must be ready to help an inferior Vaishnava in all respects. One is superior or inferior according to his spiritual development in Krishna consciousness. One is forbidden to observe the activities of a pure Vaishnava from a material point of view. For the neophyte, especially, considering a pure devotee from a material point of view is very injurious. One should therefore avoid observing a pure devotee externally, but should try to see the internal features and understand how he is engaged in the transcendental loving service of the Lord. In this way, one can avoid seeing the pure devotee from a material point of view, and thus one can gradually become a purified devotee himself.
Okay, Madhurya, I want you to comment on this after we finish the rest. There's just one more slide that Kaylee Niketana is going to read now, and then we'll all have a discussion. Kaylee.
Kaylee's reading this?
Yeah, she's going to read the next.
When one criticizes a pure devotee, he commits an offense, Vaishnava Aparad, that is very obstructive and dangerous for those who desire to advance in Krishna consciousness. A person cannot derive any spiritual benefit when he offends the lotus feet of a Vaishnava. Everyone should therefore be very careful not to be jealous of an empowered Vaishnava or a Shuddha Vaishnava. It is also an offense to consider an empowered Vaishnav an object of disciplinary action. It is offensive to try to give him advice. It is offensive to try to give him advice or correct him. One can distinguish between a neophyte Vaishnav and an advanced Vaishnav by their activities. The advanced Vaishnava is always situated as a spiritual master, and the neophyte is always considered the disciple, his disciple. The spiritual master must not be subjected to the advice of the disciple, nor should a spiritual master be obliged to take instructions from those who are not his disciples. This is the sum and substance of Srila Rupa Goswami's advice in 6th verse.
Wow. Okay. That's very, very important instruction. Madhurya, can you comment on this first?
There's the
Yeah,
verse
yes,
again.
pardon?
Just there's the verse again.
Okay. Well, I just wanted to say I came across this recently that even if you side with somebody, you don't criticize yourself, but you side with somebody who is critical, it has the same effect.
Yeah.
You kind of agree with them, but don't really
Right.
say much. But
Yeah.
so that was a point in
Yeah.
to
Well,
understand.
in the mind, one can commit an offense in the mind.
But that doesn't count, from what I understand.
Well, that counts to certain.
As it's the verbal, wasn't it?
Well, if you anything you do in the mind, the mind is very difficult to control. So if you're thinking critically in the mind of someone, you're going to get a reaction, more negative thoughts, and it's not loving. It will hurt you. That
I mean,
criticizing.
I agree. It's not appropriate to do that, but I thought in this
Well, in
age,
the Kali Yuga,
Yeah.
we're not
You don't
held
get the reaction.
responsible. But
Yeah.
you will, if you cultivate negative thoughts towards someone, then
of course,
it will, have a reaction.
it'll manifest.
It'll manifest, and
Yeah.
your heart will be. You develop that tendency to criticize others. It's
Right.
that's a real blockage to devotional service.
I think one of the points from that particular verse is the foundation is not seeing Vaishnavas on a materialistic platform. Just like Jagannath Das Babaji, he was practically an invalid carried around in a basket, but he was respected as one of the leaders in the Vaishnav community of his time because of his internal absorption and what he had done in his life. So the point is, don't judge a person just by what's outside. Wasn't there part of that in the purport? There was something about the internal. One should therefore avoid observing a pure devotee externally, but should try to see the internal features and understand how he is engaged in the transcendental loving service of the Lord. Of course, that takes some maturity in itself. By the way, I just saw Faye. Hare Krishna, Faye. Nice to see you.
You're doing better?
Slowly.
Okay. Well, at least you're on the up. Hare Krishna.
Thank you, Marty.
Okay. Jai.
So anyone else have any comments? This was a real jam-packed. This book is wonderful. As I said in the beginning, I think you were there when Kelly Niketana she thanked me. Remember? I went to yoga at her studio and she thanked me for, suggesting that we do this book at this time. And all that brings us to another thing. You want to talk about that
No,
now?
we'll do that next week.
Oh, we'll do that next week.
I just wanted to say there's another example that it's in the back of my mind, but I can't think of it, where somebody was deformed and people were criticizing him, but he was very advanced devotee. I can't remember. Do you remember anything like that?
Sounds familiar.
Yeah.
Can't think of the circumstance.
Yeah, that's dangerous.
I mean, even Chaitanya Mahaprabhu showed when he was traveling, now that we're on this subject, he was traveling in South India and came across that one person who couldn't read. But he took the Bhagavad Gita and was in front of the deity every day, and he was tearing up and showing symptoms of love. And Chaitanya Mahaprabhu asked him, he said, I can't even read, but my spiritual master told me that I should read Bhagavad Gita. So I sit here and I just, and Chaitanya Mahaprabhu said, if you can't read, then what makes you so emotional? And he said, when I see or understand that Krishna has become Arjuna's chariot driver, then this brings tears to my eyes. And Chaitanya Mahaprabhu appreciated that.
Yeah, he said, you're the real scholar of Bhagavad Gita.
Yes.
Prabhupada once said, Prabhupada talks about this story on a tape or the device. And he said, yeah, this person could not read. He was just taking the book and going, la, 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 la. Prabhupada imitated, da, 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 da. He's just making up words. That's so sweet. You know, it's a thing of the heart. It's a thing of the heart. And that's how we get other people to, you know, the way Prabhupada describes it and Rupa Goswami describes it, it is the most natural thing for all living entities to have love of God. And we can approach another soul, not even, just like on the street, anywhere, I'd say, please chant the holy name. You are my brother. And you can really connect with people on that high spiritual platform. So no matter what you're doing in life, if you know this principle, that's how you make devotees, through love, only through love. You can't chastise, you have to love people. People are attracted to love. So, okay.
I love you all, Vaishnavs.
Jai,
Vaishnavas.
Vanchakopatruja Kripa Sindhu
Vaishnaveva Namo Namaha.
Thank
Hare
you
Krishna.
all.
Yeah.
Hare Krishna. Hare Rama.